Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Debate Night. I'm Hunter, joined as always by Brodie and Silas, and we have a special guest for the World's Preview show. Trevor's joining us in studio.
Glad to be here.
Now, one thing that we're going to do this episode that I think is going to be fun. Well, first off, we got to address the woodpecker in the background. They decided to start jackhammering the wall that is adjacent to our studio, literally as we hit record. So, fingers crossed that stops soon. Hopefully, he's not coming through too bad. I can't tell. It sounds like they're about to break through the wall right now.
It's honestly not that bad because I'm pretty much used to just really loud noises these last couple of days playing disc golf, so it's fine.
Well, I'm glad you're used to it. I'm hoping
good.
Our audience at home is also used to it.
That's good news.
They will be after Worlds with the World coverage.
Oh, what does that mean?
We play next to a highway.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought maybe there was something else going on.
Oh, no. We're just like a handful of the holes are just right next to the highway, so it's
Right next to the
very,
highway.
very loud.
How funny would it be if, like, you've got, like, the most... Is there any holes down the stretch that are near the highway?
No, it's the loudest holes are going to be like on the front nine for the Jones course, and then where the final round will be. The final couple holes are kind of tucked in this like next to a neighborhood, so it won't be too bad.
I'm just imagining, like, the most important putt of the round and somebody just leans on their horn in somebody's putt.
They could do that for like the tee, like the tee shot on hole one is just
that would be
there's a road right next to it, so you could have just someone like
could you get an Uber to mess up your opponent's tee shot?
Yeah, I mean you could do a lot of things.
Just drive to this spot and lean on it when this guy's throwing.
Right when you see this guy about to launch one. Yeah, you could do a lot of stuff, I'm sure.
So speaking of hole one, we talked about it on Grip Locked a little bit. I think you called it the worst.
It's the worst hole one of all time.
Oh. Will you agree or disagree with that statement, Brodie?
I don't know. We've had some bad ones. Like Mid-America.
How are you playing it?
I don't
I'm probably just for...
you got to go for birdie, but I don't.
Okay.
I don't understand why there are so many like little tricky hole, like even European Open hole one, like that's like a tricky little par three shot. Mid-America, tricky little par three shot. I'm trying to think. Las Vegas, one of the courses is like a little island tricky part. I don't know what. There has to be something there. There has to be some sort of like behind the scenes group chat with all these course designers that are like, guys, you know what's the best thing ever? A tricky island green to start off, par three. I was just gonna say, even like toboggan. Think about toboggan. Toboggan's kind of like
that's true. That is a very hard hole.
But at least you let the disc fly a little bit.
Yes, you do, but it's still a tricky par three.
Yeah,
they love.
It is.
A lot of courses love starting with like a tricky par three.
It goes back to that whole thing where like disc golf course designers are obsessed with like their courses being impossible, and they just love being like, yeah, you just don't have time to breathe out here from the very first tee. It's just right on top of you. You know, like that's my course. That's Jones Supreme for you. That's just what they love.
The thing is it's just not true ever. Like hole one is probably one of the more difficult holes on the entire course. Yeah, it might be.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Because
probably statistically, yeah.
You throw one bad shot and you're getting a bogey pretty much.
Yeah.
Where did you said they moved the drop zone?
The drop zone is now a little bit. It's you have a better chance of making it. It's dead in line with the basket, but it's still like maybe a 45, 50 footer to an elevated basket to an elevated green. So
yeah, you're not really making it.
It's probably like a 60-foot putt, like distance-wise, like actual power-wise, I guess, to make it. So you'll see guys save par for sure. My whole thing is obviously you guys have probably talked about it already. I think it's just an awkward. I think for the fans especially, it's just like an awkward like. You could potentially have like lead card third day of Worlds, and no one throws in bounds. So it's just kind of like a
right.
Like
as
they come off, you're just like.
Well, you got all these spectators that are like, there could be people new to the sport, and it's such a weird way to start the World Championships. Like, even for like opening day, like, all right, we're so excited, first card, and yeah, they just all miss the eye on it. It's like, all right, and are they doing at Emporia? Is there going to be walk-up songs?
I just got $3 from Ezra for our round today. Let's go! Shout out to Ezra. Sorry,
That's huge.
Ezra's my dark horse pick for this tournament. How confident are you in that?
I mean, this course.
Is he a good dark horse
Yeah,
pick?
I mean, this course sets up really good for him.
Heck yeah.
I've actually, since playing with Matty O, I've now have been leaning more on some flex shots with my backhand, which is just opening up the world of possibilities in disc.
That Ricky
For someone
used
that can't
so
throw
many of those last time he was at DDO.
Yeah, I wish I could. Flex shot sounds like fun.
That's all I throw.
Here's the thing that, to me, here's the thing that probably helps the most with the flex shot is, and when I'm saying flex shot, I'm not saying like you can like Jomez Pro follow flight like an S with my disc.
Yeah.
Not doing like these. What I'm saying is like I'm starting it on Annie. The disc is moving just a little bit to the right, and then it slowly comes out. So it's a very tight S. But the thing with that is a lot of these holes, obviously, and you'll probably hear this 1,000 times when they do like their breakdown of like, what do you need to do to win? It'll be throw the disc in bounds, which is obviously the answer to every single course. To win, you have to throw the disc in bounds. But a lot of the holes, especially on these courses, have slopes and stuff. And so when you just throw like the pure kind of hyzer shot and it's coming in, I feel like it comes in with a little bit more, like it comes in with a little more power and has the chance to have like more reaction than that flex shot. It like comes in so much softer into the ground.
You're kind of stalling it out.
Yeah.
Almost.
And so that's a shot I've been working on. And then my power forehand too. If I can get that power forehand working, those are two shots that me and Ezra have been working on a lot, because obviously playing the final group day with Ricky at Emporia, I think it was like on hole 15 or something, 15 or 16. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, dang, having a big forehand really helps out here. And he's like, yeah, it does. Because a lot of those holes, he was just able to not necessarily throw, obviously, as far as the people throwing backhands, but he was still getting in spots to where he could birdie from, with the disc just kind of staying in bounds for way longer and just being able to manage that more. So if the power forehand's working, look for those players also to kind of jump up the leaderboard out there, especially on Country Club.
Interesting. I thought about taking Chandler Kramer, and maybe I should have after hearing that.
He shredded, and I can't remember who his doubles partner was, but they were shredding. And,
Oh, yeah, because like mixed world doubles happen.
Yeah.
So did they shut down the course for an entire day for that, or how did that work?
I believe the whole course was shut down once it started, and then I want to say they probably finished up around 6-ish. So you probably could have like bounced out there after that if you wanted to. But for the most part, everyone pretty much just practiced the other course that day.
Okay.
Now, since our last episode, obviously we've had some type. I don't think the page article had come out before the last episode, but obviously there was we covered it on Grip Block, but the whole page incident in Emporia Country Club, and then it sparked some conversation on Ulti World and PDGA about the courses needing to be ready in time. So obviously when this episode comes out, round one will have already happened to the World Championships, but when we're filming this episode, World start tomorrow. When was the course, would you say, like truly finished, like how it's going to be for the tournament to start tomorrow?
Oh, man, that's a good question. Gosh, I'm trying to think when it was. I feel like Jones got set up pretty quick, and they had flags out and stuff, which were obviously you need to have flags out because just a spray painted line, you can't see that from the tee box. I want to say that all happened on Friday.
Okay, so they did do the like 4 days before thing. They were planning.
Let me see. Let me think. We filmed. Yeah. We filmed the video. When is this video coming out? Today?
Tomorrow.
This is coming out tomorrow? What is today? Monday?
Monday.
Oh, okay. All right. So we filmed the Gannon and Alden match, which will already be out by now. That doubles battle we filmed on Friday at ECC, and everything was pretty much set up at that point. Now they did, and also I'll say a couple things. Something that's very interesting is if you gave the caddy book to someone and said, hey, set up this course as far as like where the OB lines are and where the drop zones are, the course would look very different than what it looks like right now. There are a lot of, like hole 1, for example, if you look at the caddy book on hole 1 on ECC, the line of OB looks like it's down the left side fairway, when in fact it's in between the left side fairway and the sidewalk. So it's about 10 to 15 feet off. The big one that I noticed, the two big ones on Country Club that I noticed that are very different, is the new hole, which, are you pulling up the caddy book now?
I'm pulling it up now,
so the new hole, the one that they switched on the back 9, I think it's hole 14. They moved it from a par 4 to a par 5 this year. If you look at hole 14 at Country Club, the OB on the left looks like what? It's going right down the fairway.
Hole 14 at Country Club? Yeah, it's in the middle of the fairway.
Yeah, and that is on the left side of the fairway. So it's a good 90 feet more left. So like when I was looking at that hole, I was like, oh, wow, they're going to force people to play down the right where all those trees and stuff are. That's going to be really interesting. When in fact, the OB is the same. And then 18, go to 18 on Country Club. It looks like the OB is like way past the basket. Like, so if you're throwing that tee shot, you can just launch a tee shot really, really far. Yeah. And the OB line is like in line with the basket. Like if you go parallel.
Oh, like going straight at.
Yeah, like if you go parallel from the tee box to the basket, it's like it's way closer. So again, if you came and played the courses starting on Friday, you were fine. But those of us that got here early and we were kind of just looking at the caddy book to try to figure out where the OBs were, like me and Ezra played that hole way different because we were just chucking nukes as far as we could. And now we have to go kind of fairway or else we'd go through the fairway OB. So that was interesting. And then two things that I noticeably saw they changed on Jones was, well, first off, they changed the flow, which I think is really, really good. So you won't even notice that when it happens. But for us, the flow is going to work a lot better for a couple of these holes. But I believe it's hole 8 now, which is like the big 422-foot par 3 that you'll see people throw forehands on or like big turnovers on. They trimmed up this one tree, so like the forehand line is a little bit more accessible, which I'm okay with because I think that line was a little bit kind of low to begin with. But the big one, and I'm sure you've heard people talk about this and everything, is that basket that the tree was like touching almost. They completely butchered that tree. So that is completely gone, and I'm very sad.
Fascinating. So after Alex Russell's post, they just came in with like a chainsaw and said, bye-bye
This is
tree.
This is where I'm interested is like, if there is enough pushback on certain things like that, is the PDGA or the tournament directors, are they willing to kind of bend over backwards for the players, for like the outspoken players? Because it would be interesting to see like a poll taken on like how many people don't like that. Because again, I'll say my point. I think I said it in a couple of the practice round videos. That whole, if there's no wind, again, this is all different because obviously this course plays way differently in heavy winds. But if there's no wind for the top players, that hole is a stock hyzer, puts you in spot, and then you have like a 270-foot upshot, and now it's like a 200-foot upshot where it's like you can pretty much throw almost anywhere and make a birdie. Where before, like it was a stressful upshot because you knew if you went left or long right, you were in the tree and you were going to have a putt. So you had to land short right, kind of in this little pocket to make sure you had a putt. And so you had to be very precise with that upshot. And to me, it just kind of makes that hole kind of like blah now because there's really no protection really. And so I'd be curious. I haven't really talked to too many people. Ezra obviously loves it. He hated the tree being there. But for me, like...
Why did he not like the tree?
What's that?
Why did he not like the tree?
He's in the realm, which I think a lot of people are, of where it's like if you're in the circle, you should have a straightforward putt. And my thought process always is I want things to get harder and harder and harder, so that way it benefits and awards the better players. And if we're just allowing people to throw anywhere inside of 33 feet and you have a wide open birdie putt, you're not really, that to me, like, doesn't benefit the people that are more accurate. It's really easy.
Yeah.
Like, if you take someone out and you do, a circle one around the basket, 33 feet, and you give him a 300-foot shot to throw whatever they want, they're going to, like, the top players are probably going to throw it inside of that a lot of times. Even the non-top players, even the guys that are like 70 to like 50 and 50 to 40, they're going to throw into that circle one a lot. But, like, you're not really rewarding the guys that are, like, pinning the basket. Or if you're like, hey, you only can throw it on the right side of the basket circle, that counts. Like, those guys are going to be more accurate. So, for me, like, obviously, again, this is one of those things that probably doesn't benefit me to making it harder, because there are guys that are way more accurate with those kind of upshots than I am. But, again, like, I just want to see good disc golf get rewarded. And I think that is one of those things where now you basically make it to where you have a much bigger piece of the pie, if you will, to land in to have a putt.
I used to be on this thing is interesting because I used to be on the other side of that argument, because I kind of just I think when you just look at it from a surface level and you don't really analyze it, you just think to yourself automatically like, oh, well, if I land in the circle, I deserve to have a putt. But nowhere, why should you deserve to have a putt just because you get within a certain distance? Now, within like a couple feet of the hole, that's something to be said. But like, disc golf, we shouldn't be trying to make disc golf easier. We should be trying to make it harder. And I think that the upshot game is like the best place to defend holes right now. I really like when there's tricky slopes around greens, and I think that putting, as much as the mozzarella sticks are awful looking at USDGC, they force a very interesting thing. Like you were saying, they make you have to land in certain spots. Another example of this is like when we were just at that naval course in South Carolina, and there's those holes where you have to kind of line up to a little tunnel. So like now your landing zone is forced to a certain amount, or you're going to get pinched. I think that's actually a really creative way to defend disc golf holes, and something that's not being utilized, because I think the players like assume they're entitled. If I throw it within 33 feet, I should have a wide open putt. But that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Also, if my whole thing is like, if you want to have that argument, that's fine, but you need to be consistent with every single hole. So hole 16 at Country Club, which is probably the most famous hole, right? The island hole at the Country Club. If you draw a 33-foot radius around that circle, around that basket, there is a lot of area where you're OB. Like short left.
Same with the hay bales hole at USDGC.
Yes. And no one ever talks about like how that's not fair or whatever, because
it's only when it's a tree.
It's very like those. That's where it's like, to me, it's like you have to be consistent of where, if you do not like the fact that if you land in a certain area, you do not have a putt for par or a putt for birdie, and it's inside the circle, then you should say that there should be no OB inside circle. You should keep it consistent,
and there are people
because
that say that.
In my head, even though that tree technically is not OB, in my head, it's like if I go short left, I am taking birdie out of play. Now, where I don't like it is on like blind shots. Like if you have blind shots where you can't physically see where the trouble is, and you just have to try to think, like do your best at like gauging. Like I think that's just a little too much where, to me, it's like, I think that's where I draw the line. If you can see the trouble and you know it's there, there should be no reason for you not to throw it there. Like we all know it's there, just don't throw it there. So that's my thing is like, I just don't think people that have that take are consistent across the board of where they'll call out other holes that are technically OB. Memorial hole number 1, another prime example. If you're just left of the basket or just short of the basket, you're in the water. And no one's really complaining. So I don't know. That's all I can say about like the changes as far as kind of last minute stuff that I saw change from my early practice rounds to when the courses was actually set up on Friday.
Yeah, I feel like the tree, like if people almost consider getting in a tree as getting unlucky.
They do,
versus
yeah.
OB. It doesn't have that same connotation.
It's like Brodie was saying, if going into the shot, you're just thinking get close to the basket, you're going to feel robbed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, what the heck? There's a tree there. But if you're like using course management and thinking, hey, this is what's around the green, this is where I need to land. And if you end up in the tree, you're just going to think, oh, I threw a bad shot. It's not where I wanted to go. So I think that's what it comes down to. Is like,
I think course designs are getting better and better at making players have to think. And we're just going to I think there's just going to be this growth stage of like people having to kind of figure stuff out, because coming from golf, it's very apparent on a lot of holes and greens where you want to miss and where you don't want to miss, of where like you could be 5 feet from the hole, but if you're 5 feet above the hole, that putt is significantly harder than 5 feet below the hole. And I think we're starting to see more and more greens that are forcing players to land in certain spots on those greens, if you will, like circle one areas, to actually have a putt, versus like Trevor was just saying, the mindset of a lot of times guys are just trying to throw it straight at the basket. And if they miss left, whatever, if they miss right, whatever, if they miss short or long, whatever, they still have a putt. I think hopefully gone are those days, and we can move forward to where we're taking like little sections and forcing players, especially on holes that don't have any sort of defense. I think that's key. Holes that have no defense, I think it's important to kind of have it to where it's difficult. It makes it difficult. So, and my thing too is like that hole, if you got short left on that hole, no one had a good putt. So it's not the flukiness where like some people will have a good putt and some people won't. If you go short left on that hole, you are going to have to throw some crazy putt, and maybe you make it, but everyone was going to struggle with that putt. It wasn't like, oh, I got lucky and now I have this wide open gap in this tree. It was really bad over there. So that's where I was definitely fine with it. But
I think it's just a concept that people have to adapt, because like if you're watching golf and you've never really watched golf or seen like PGA Tour greens, and you hear the commentators say something like, yeah, nobody's taking on this pin today, and they're like all aiming for the very middle of the green, like 40 feet away from the pin, you're going to be like, what are you like, why would they not? Like, it's right there. There's grass around it, but there are other reasons. So I think, and like, that takes a bit of adjusting to, and I think that's just a concept that like disc golf needs simple things like that to make courses harder without having to make them longer or tighten the OB. Like, this is the kind of stuff that makes a course difficult, that people should be rooting for, really.
Yeah, and if you go back to kind of like the playoff that just went down in Des Moines with Robert and Simon, the hole that it actually ended on, right? Like
perfect
the
example.
Bailout on that hole was left. The bailout was left. And I think that's a really well-designed hole, because I'm not a huge fan of the drop zone. I think the drop zone's bad. But as far as the hole concept goes, if you take that pin on and you're trying to pin it, if you will, if you miss right, you're most likely in the water. And if your angle is just a little off, you could end up short. So like Robert, for example, he was throwing the shot that like most people threw on that hole, which you're trying to give yourself like a 30-footer on the left side of that basket. Unfortunately, he hit, the stump and got the big
stump
skip.
gate.
But had he not hit the stump, he would have had like a 33-footer, 35-footer left of the basket, and that was the play there. And I think we're starting to see more holes designed in a way where what Trevor was just saying, that concept of, oh, every single pin, I'm just trying to park it. There's some pins where you don't want to try to do that, because that's where you can get in some big trouble and you can get big numbers. So,
yeah, I think it makes sense. Now, you took to Twitter and talked about how you were seeing some like comments and stuff coming after the course design. Well, not necessarily course design, but how the course was coming across on video. And you defended the courses in general, saying that, you felt like once the round started, it was going to hold up pretty well. Walk us through kind of what viewers were saying about the courses, and then why you defended it.
Yeah, so what we were seeing in our practice rounds and our double videos on YouTube, we were seeing a lot of comments that were just saying like boring. Like, this is a boring course. Not necessarily the content, but like the actual courses,
Yeah.
just boring, not exciting. And I will say, like, it is very difficult to make a course out in the open exciting to watch, because a lot of times it just seems like, and again, in the past, without OB and stuff, it just seems like players are able just to chuck the disc anywhere, and there's no really like ramifications. Honestly, a lot of toboggan was like that, of where you're just chucking a disc, and wherever it ends up, you try to figure out how to get up and down from there. Now, toboggan has really thick rough, and also toboggan has the crazy elevation changes. So I think that helps with kind of viewer watching it on coverage, where these courses are pretty flat for the most part. There is some elevation changes, but nothing too drastic. But my defense was more on like the player side. Like, these courses are they're demanding. There's not really that many holes where you step up and you can kind of just relax. And unfortunately, that's just not easy for the viewers to see. And that's where I was saying, like, if you could come in and say, okay, instead of just making these lines OB and just having, painted lines and little flags, let's put water into all these OB spots. The course would look way different. Or, hey, let's grow the grass up 3 feet. The course would look way different. And I think viewer-wise, people would love it. It would remind them of Memorial, or remind them of a course like Blue Lake, where you've got those big kind of like grassy OB areas. Or Preserve is another one, Jonesboro, where they do have kind of control of some grass length, and you can see, like, when you're stepping up behind a tee box, like, oh man, that's a narrow fairway. He's got to throw it down there, where right now with the flags, it's just hard to do. The other thing I'll say too that I probably don't see happening unless I'll just say it. I think Worlds right now, they're trying to generate probably as much money as they can, as far as like getting as many people as possible to the tournament and playing in the tournament. And the only way they can do that is if they had 2 courses. I don't think these 2 courses are different enough to where you're making it to where, like a Ledgestone, for example, or even a course or a tournament I haven't played yet, a GMC tournament, of where you have 2 very different style of courses, to where having a world championship there makes sense, because it's like, okay, can you keep it in bounds? Can you throw these hyzer shots? Can you throw these distance shots? Can you play in the wind? But then also, can you play in the woods? And there you have a good mixture of who your world champion is. These 2 courses, you're throwing the same shots at both these courses. And I honestly think the only reason we're playing 2 courses is simply because of how many people are in the tournament.
Yes, most definitely.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, from a viewer perspective, it definitely looks like the 2 courses, like, they don't look the same in the sense that, like, you can get them confused. Like, when you're at the Country Club, or when you're at June Supreme, but you can definitely tell they're similar. Like, you can tell the shots that are being asked are very similar.
I think if one wasn't, if the golf course was like park, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you took away the grass cutting and all that stuff, I think you would have a really hard time telling what course. Like, if you just saw a video, I mean, I just had, I was watching Tristan's Instagram. He just posted an Instagram, and I was watching it, and I was like, what hole is that? I'm like, it took me a while to try to figure out what hole that was.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's definitely tough, kind of having those distinction between shots and holes. But
now,
it's unfortunate, because these are good courses. Like, these are very, very challenging courses, to where, you can go out and shoot 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 under, but you could also shoot even par. So it has that 10-shot swing.
Which course is playing harder?
I think Country Club.
Is that just because of more OB, or what?
So this is what I'll say. Jones, I think there's like 5 really hard birdie holes. Jones has 3 of them.
Okay.
But I think overall, the level of difficulty of each hole on average at Country Club is harder. So even though there are, and you'll see these holes. They're on like what holes are they? 8, 9, 10. Okay, so hole 11 is a very tough birdie. And
Which
then
course
you got,
is this at? This is Jones
This
East?
is at Jones.
Or Supreme?
Jones.
Okay.
Yeah. Hole 11's a very tough birdie. Hole 13's a very tough birdie. And hole 15's a very tough birdie. And they're all par threes. So, like, in that stretch, like, if you get one of those three, you're probably pretty happy. But they aren't necessarily difficult to par. Where I think Country Club has a couple holes that are like that, where getting a birdie is difficult. But I think a lot more holes on Country Club, bogeys in play, double bogeys in play, big numbers are in play. And there's a 10 cup hole now on Country Club as well. Hole number 12. Keep your eye out on hole 12. If you're looking and you see someone take a big number, they did the 10 cup situation, because I don't know if you guys watched the practice rounds or whatnot, but they basically made that hole to where there is a direct line at the basket. It's like 430, I want to say, playing uphill. And the OB is about 30 or 40 feet short. So you need to throw like a 450-foot shot, pretty narrow like line down all over OB. Or you play like the big turnover or like the big kind of like forehand drop. And it's one of those holes where, like, if you are going for the basket, like down that straight shot, it's like, at what point do you stop going for it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's where I don't know. I played the safe forehand play today and just played it for a par, and that's probably what I'll do in the tournament, because that is a tough one where it's like you go for it and you don't get it. Now you're throwing 3. Well, do you lay up and play for a 5? So keep your eye out on hole 12, Country Club. And obviously hole 9 is an absolute brute. Even though they did move the tee closer to the gap, I think you'll see more people go through the gap. But that kind of also just brings the OB more into play now. So hole 9's an absolute brute too on Country Club. So we'll see.
Fascinating. Definitely will be interesting. Now we're in a trying to think, there's one other thing I wanted to bring up about the courses, but I might remember it here in a second. But we're in a unique situation here because we're filming this on Monday, but it's going to come out after the first round is already happening.
Yeah.
So we have a chance to sound like geniuses or idiots, depending on
Predicting
how we're about to go.
Yeah.
Well, predicting the future, which is now the past.
Correct.
When people are listening to this. I don't think we need to predict who's in the lead, because I think that'll get too tough.
Yeah.
But what course are we starting on?
A starts on Jones.
A pool.
I think it goes Jones, Country Club, Jones, Country Club, Country Club.
Since you guys love ratings, Jones, Country Club, Jones, Country Club, Country Club. And there's a cut after the 4th round. And since you guys love ratings so much.
We do.
We love them.
I have a tattoo of my rating.
You can kind of take a peek, too. I believe last Worlds, if you were above 1,000 rated, you were automatically pretty much in the A pool.
Not anymore.
Where did you find that data? Was it just like knowledge last year? Like you were just a part of it?
What do you mean, where
I couldn't find the pools. I couldn't find the pools from last year.
Oh, yeah, you can't. You're not going to be able to find it. I
You
just
knew it.
I just knew a couple guys that were like 998 kind of thing. And they didn't know
Gotcha.
they were going to fall, and they ended up falling in the B pool.
Gotcha.
This year, I want to say like
10:04.
2005 maybe might be the cutoff.
It's 10:04. Scott Stokely's the last one in the A pool.
2004? Okay.
Yeah.
So that kind of just shows, too, a little bit of the growth as far as the field is concerned.
Well, we did on Grip Locked, we looked back at the last time Worlds was at Emporia, which was 2016, and it was like 41 players were over 1,000 rated.
Yeah.
And now there's a little over 100 in the field.
And the interesting thing, again, I feel like people just talk about ratings when it's interesting, like when it's a positive interest, maybe. Like this is showing you this is what I was talking about from the very get-go of like the misconception that people had of like, if you come on tour, your rating is just, like, you guys thought about that too. Like when we first started talking about this stuff, you guys were like, oh yeah, if you go on tour, your rating will go up.
They will.
No,
I still think that.
No, it won't. Literally look at the ratings this year. Where's the 1050 club?
No, not the
What
high
happened?
end. I'm saying like me as a 970 rated player or 960, whatever I am.
If
I go on tour, my rating's going up.
If you went on tour, hold on. This is what I'll agree with. I'll agree with you on this point. If you went on tour and your goal was to just try to shoot 1,000 rated, and you played for that, and you weren't playing to cash, you weren't playing to win. Your simple goal was like, okay, 2 under par is 1,000 rated. What do I need to do to? And you were like playing holes for par and all that stuff. Sure, maybe that will work. But if you're trying to go out and try to shoot well, like if you're trying to actually make the cut, I think now, because so much of, for lack of better words, fat is no longer on tour. We don't have those I remember playing tournaments where you had like 920 rated guys in the field, right? And they were just boosting ratings up basically by making the course seem a lot harder than it is. The fact that we don't have those people on tour really anymore, that's the reason why you see all the 1050 rated guys, all the super high rated guys, they've dropped. There's no 1050 rated people. And there was, 4 last year for a while, right?
For a while, yeah, something like that.
Do you agree or not?
I mean, I get what you're saying, but
I do think.
Well, the only other reason
courses have
today
gotten
is
harder.
those people, all 4 of the top players, the 4 of the best players in the world have all gotten worse this year. That's your logic.
they're getting beat by the field.
Hunter
more.
and I just have really deep scars from playing in college where like the ratings like we would shoot like crazy steaming hot rounds that were like once, not just like we played well, it was like once in a lifetime rounds, and you get rated like 980 and you'd be like, what the heck?
Obviously it's course dependent too. Like Hunter, if you went to like Masters Cup, you probably would do better at that course. But like if you're playing these courses, you would get, and you were like trying to play, these would be bad courses for you to play for a rating. So obviously it's dependent on the course.
It definitely is dependent somewhat on the course. But this weekend also there is like a 913 rated guy in the field. The fat's back.
But that's in the B pool, so that
is in the B pool.
That won't affect the A pool's ratings.
I don't know
how that works.
I don't know how it affects
I
because
have no
it's
idea.
in the same event.
This is also wild. This is also a wild thing. I really hope disc
the pool
golf
system's crazy.
Yeah, I hope disc golf continues to have like the format that it currently has right now, as everyone gets better. Because like I could see down the road like 1,010 rated guy being in the B pool or 1,015 rated guy being in the B pool and winning worlds, and you just didn't see them for the first 2
It's
rounds.
definitely possible.
Yeah.
There was just no talk or coverage of him because he was in a completely different tournament essentially, and then all of a sudden he comes out of nowhere and wins. I don't
There
think
have been guys that have like snuck in like the top, I'd say like top 20 or so, where like when the pools reshuffle, it's like fourth card gets a new face.
How steep is the cut? How many people are getting cut?
I think it's still 40, right? Isn't that just
40?
Always do
Should be.
40? So that'll be
Should
like
be.
80 people probably because there's like 200 people or something in the event.
213, yeah.
Yeah, so like top 80 will make it, I think. But
That'd be tough.
Yeah,
But-
no, it would definitely be electric if someone from the B pool won. Because this year it's statistically not impossible, but very unlikely. Because you do have at least some solid guys in the B
Stokely.
pool, but it's very, very, very unlikely. But you're right. If you got to...
Stokely's going to win Worlds and flip the whole Brody versus Stokely thing
Oh,
on his
that
head.
would. That
Well-
would flip it.
that's fine. The other thing that is really, really interesting, it doesn't really matter too much on these courses because they're both out in the open. But like Des Moines, like we didn't really talk too much about it, but I think like statistics did come out and talked about like the people that played, the people that had the draw of where like they didn't play at all, and the people that did, like they did like a statistical analysis on like how they played based off of like their average. And I think like everyone played worse that had like that bad draw because of just how much harder the conditions were that we had to play through.
Yeah.
So like this course, it doesn't matter because if it's windy, people are going to suffer on Jones and Country Club. Probably more suffering on Country Club than Jones because there are more options. Well, who knows? But think about like a course like a Ledgestone where you really have an open course like Lake Eureka in a Northwoods Black where wind doesn't really affect you more than like maybe 2 tee shots. Like imagine a Worlds is there in this A and B pool and B plays Lake Eureka, no wind. no wind for A Pool and Northwoods, and then the next day it's like 20-mile-an-hour winds. Like that situation,
That's
could
like a 10-stroke swing.
Yeah, you could have people just trying to shoot even par on Lake Eureka, and these guys shredded Lake Eureka, and all of a sudden, like, there's someone from the B pool that has like a 4-shot lead, and you're like, what the heck? Like that would be the interesting kind of situation.
Well, yeah, because imagine it happens round 1, so then like round 2 lead card doesn't make sense. Like it's somebody from
you
like
wouldn't
different.
know.
That's the thing.
You
Like,
had no idea. Round 2 lead card would still make sense. It wouldn't be till round 3.
what do you mean you would have no idea?
B
Because
pool people
they
don't
haven't
exist.
played yet. B Pool's played late, like at this tournament. B Pool's played Country Club.
I think
And
Oh yeah, because
They're on
the
different
courses
courses.
aren't even the same.
yeah, that's what he's saying. Is like if they were
yeah,
on
that
Northwoods,
is such a weird.
so you don't
concept.
understand until after the second
That's
round.
right.
Then you know where we're
yeah,
at.
so
That's
technically,
mind-blowing.
Trevor, you are right in the sense that the person that is in the lead for the A pool technically might not be in the lead for the tournament. And it'd be very interesting to see how the commentators handle that. Is if they're like saying,
Oh, they always struggle with that. Like whenever somebody has a lead in the clubhouse, and they're like, and Gannon Bird takes the lead. Well, not actually the lead because
He doesn't actually have it.
He doesn't actually have the lead. There's somebody in the clubhouse. Like they struggle with that one. So that would be just a whole new curveball for them, man. They wouldn't know what to do with that.
Well, they would be going through why they have no chance to win.
Well,
like
yeah.
with Robert Burridge and
yeah,
Evan Smith, they'd be like, well, but statistically, like they're not going to win, so we don't even talk about that.
right, yeah.
yeah, this course, thankfully, this course has really good finishing holes. So you're not going to be in a situation where someone is in the clubhouse at 20 under par and the leaders are on like hole 14 at like 16 under par or 17 under par. And they're like, well, he has no
They're gonna
shot at
pass him.
winning because these guys are going to birdie out, which is a lot of tournaments. Like hole 18,
That is true.
Hole 18 is a tough hole. Hole 17 is a tough hole. Hole 16 obviously is a
Yeah.
tough hole. Like,
You know, it's funny because in disc golf, that is such like a formality. Like if a guy has enough of a lead, because like it's crazy. Like watching the Tour Championship this weekend, like Scotty Scheffler, who was up by 6 strokes going into that round,
Yeah.
had absolutely no reason to lose. But golf just plays so difficult that guy shot over par at a very scoreable course that was very scoreable that day and lost. And like in disc golf, when guys get leads at certain courses, like you're mentioning, like it's such like you just know, like it's not going to happen. Like nobody's going to shoot over par
No.
on the last like 4 holes. Like it's just not going to happen.
yeah, and I want to say the final round of DDO, I believe I started the day either second. I think I started the day second place, and had a
Were you tied for second?
I had a miserable start though. Like I was throwing OP,
Yeah.
like I couldn't find the fairway, and so I think I dropped pretty far down the leaderboard.
You're almost out of the top 10.
Oh no, I was well out of the top 10. I think I was like
Was it that far?
30th or something. And then I ended up birding 15, 16, 17, and 18, and that like rocket shit me up.
We were trying to, on Grip Lock, decide what World's theme song would be. If it
I was
had
saying
one.
it needs an anthem, like the Masters, like has like the little. Well, it's CBS really that does it, but like the Worlds needs like a song that like when they start playing the B-roll before the coverage, like like Worlds is back, like. That's what it needs.
What would
like
be
the
your
NFL
song?
on Fox song, like that's what's Worlds at? Like what would you choose?
Well, what the other question too to add on top of that is, do you think like there needs to be like a logo? Is there a logo that's like consistent?
There is a logo.
Not
No, they
consistent.
change
They
it.
change it every year.
change it for
They
the venue or like where it is. Yeah,
Is that the same thing for
Okay, the venue.
USDGC? Is like
No.
the
No,
You-
USDGC is consistent.
they have the same one.
okay.
They've
which
rebranded a few times.
Also,
but-
does European Open also has the same
Yep.
logo?
Okay, so they just do. I want to say the World's logo though is somewhat like similar, but it might be just a little bit, like you said, like depending on where it is, it's a little bit different.
I also just realized that the Pro Tour, I don't even think has a music package. Like when the Pro Tour broadcast starts, we're not
Yeah, they
getting.
do. It's like, dude, like it's
Oh yeah, they do because they play like the highlight thing
yeah.
with it. Okay,
And during the countdowns.
well at least they've got.
it's not
that.
great, but it's there.
It's
Yeah,
gotta be
no, I
great.
think that definitely helps. Like having
Connor said it had
watched-
to be something by Mr. Worldwide.
Well, we're not getting the rights for that, but I just listened to a TikTok where they ranked all the different like NFL intros,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's like 10 different or 8 different ones.
And they're all good. That's the thing.
They're all bangers. They're
all
bangers.
so good because
Like,
they had
NFL
like
Red
Monday
Zone's
night.
bangers.
Yeah, they had Monday Night Football so low, and I was like, what? Like how? But then I thought about it, and I was like, they're all so good.
Fox is really good.
Yeah,
They're all very good. So
well, you know, one of the best ones ever is SEC on CBS.
SEC is very
But
good.
I'm pretty sure CBS is doing the Big Ten this year, not the SEC, is what I heard.
Yeah.
So does the
you
Big
wanna-
Ten get the same music?
No.
You want to talk about? We were having this conversation, and this kind of also it's very interesting because the one like podcast I listen to on golf is like the No Laying Up guys, and which is very interesting because I don't know if we want to go that way, but they were like talking about how their tour championship needs like something changed, and the guys on there suggested potentially like a what the Champions Cup was going to do, where it's like you play top 4 go into match play, and they were thinking like, oh, that sounds good.
That is so
would
funny.
be so funny. That would
And I
be
think it's just one
all-time
of those
disc golf
things that where,
moment.
yeah, I think it's just one of those things where everyone's gonna like, it's cyclical. Like ideas will slowly revolve, but just to kind of show you just how far disc golf is, because again, it's one of those things where I love disc golf, it's awesome, but I think sometimes when you get like all disc golf and you're not seeing the big picture outside, like seeing how much money these other sports are making from their things. Like if you saw the Big Ten, I think the Big Ten did something like, we just looked it up. They're doing like a 9-year deal and
Probably worth a few billion.
worth insane amount of money.
Yeah.
But then like I looked up like Fox's deal with the NFL and it's like 4 times that. And
Yeah. Well, have you ever seen the March Madness deal? That's another crazy one.
yeah, and it just shows you like we are. Yes, there's a lot of growth and a lot of stuff is happening, and I know like a lot of players want more money and this and want bigger purses, and obviously I'm always, advocating for that. But at the end of the day, like we just aren't bringing in the money, like nearly anywhere near as. I mean, Rory just made $18 million at that time.
We were saying, I think it was Trevor that said if you took 3 digits off,
Three zeros
off the
better than average.
golf payout, it's better than an average disc golf payout.
Just to give you
that'd be 18,000,
18 grand to the winner. Yeah,
That would be
So
like
just-
insane amount of money for disc golf.
Just to give you like perspective, like so think about Major League Soccer. They're like a baby league in the U.S. They're pretty legit at this point, but they are definitely steps
They're not
below.
Big Four. Yeah, they're below
Right.
the Big Four.
They just signed a new deal this year. I wanted to look it up to make sure I knew what it was. It's with Apple TV, and it's worth 10 years, $2.5 billion. And that's the MLS. So that's just the perspective.
that can't be worth it. Surely.
I mean, the MLS has gotten to a pretty
Well, you got to think too. That's all of the MLS.
the
so they own
Big
all of it
Ten. The Big Ten deal is worth $7 billion. I
Jeez,
for 9 years.
think it was 7 years.
$1 billion a year.
But also, I don't think that's it. I think Big Ten can still go on other. I think that
Yeah,
deal
it was
though,
between a bunch of networks. It wasn't even just one network.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like the one network, they just get like a big Big Ten game. They don't. It's not like they're buying the rights for all Big Ten games.
Yeah, no, it's nuts. TV deals are it's the biggest like exchange of money in sports, and it's not even close. I can't think of one that's bigger.
Yeah.
Like the next thing close to that is like when a team builds a stadium. Like that's the next exchange of money in sports.
It's
I can think of.
also if we're going down that road talking about that, it's so interesting because like the pay-per-view model, basically what disc golf has right now is the pay-per-view model, right? Like that model, I think you have to have that model in the infancy, and then you kind of build out of that model to where now you get to where you have like TVs or whoever, Netflix, Hulu, whatever, some streaming platform paying for it, and then it's free. But then like you look at boxing or UFC, they also have a pay-per-view model, but they have the model because I think it's so interesting because I think it's like
It's because they sell the fights and they're only selling one fight at a time. Really, like I think it's easier for them to sell an event. I think it's also because
it's how they pay the fighters too. I think is a huge one, right?
Yeah,
So like,
I would be curious to know. Like, so obviously the Pro Tour, they have the pay-per-view model, and then they get a certain amount of viewers, which then they can pitch to sponsors and say, we have this many viewers. This is why we're this X amount valuable to you. I'd be curious to know if they made it free tomorrow and they just gained viewers heavily for the next few months, because they would gain more viewers. How much more money are they worth to sponsors if they unlock the paywall? And is that amount of money even close to what they're making with the paywall? I'd be curious to know.
Yeah,
probably not.
It's so like, I wish I had the answers and I wish I knew. I have no idea. I have no clue what the right way of doing it is or what's the best way. There's certain situations where it makes you think like the Paige Pierce documentary. We've talked about it a bunch on this podcast as well. If you haven't checked it out, I think it's still on the Disc Golf Network, and you still have like a little bit of time to go check that out.
I think so.
But like, that's an interesting one because, the promotion for that was like, hey, we need as many people to buy this to show other streaming platforms that people want to view this.
Yeah.
And like, the thought is like, okay, yes, if you can show that 100,000 people are willing to spend $5 to watch this, that's super valuable. But could they have gotten I mean, I don't think they got 100,000 people to watch it because I don't think there's 100,000 subscribers for DGN. But if they would have released that on YouTube, could they have gotten 250,000 views?
Yes.
And like, is that super valuable to pitch to people of like, hey, we got
Well, the tough part is once it's free, how do you put it back behind something? Like if I'm Netflix and it's already been on YouTube, why do I want it?
Yeah, I think that's the more important line. What Hunter's saying is like,
I agree. It's a very difficult thing to do.
But yeah, it is interesting. I don't know where that line is where it's like, and I'm sure the Pro Tour has an idea because they're now talking with real sponsors. But like, I wonder if they just have a line in mind, like, okay, once we think we can get this many like constant viewers, that's when we can unlock it, because now we know we can make more money if we just get all the people that won't pay in. But I don't know what that line is. Maybe they're just looking for a TV deal of some sort. Like, I have no idea.
I will say a positive thing, a company that I had a decent relationship with, no interest in disc golf at all, just emailed me interested in maybe getting into disc golf.
Nice.
So, like, we need more of that. We need more of, like, well-known companies that have money, have budgets to throw around that are interested in disc golf as a product. Because, again, like, how many guys are on tour that have – I don't think there's a single guy on tour that has an apparel sponsorship.
Other than, like, Savage Apparel or something like
VII,
that.
man.
That's not a sponsorship. Like, having someone...
It is, but it's within disc golf. How is it not?
That's a sponsorship is not...
Because they're not being paid.
We'll make jerseys for you, and whenever you
probably
get money...
Not.
What?
I'm saying they're probably not getting paid X amount. They're probably getting paid adjustable based on what they sell.
Correct. I would say majority of sponsorships are like that. And again, like...
It's different for sure.
Do we want to say $1,000 is a sponsorship? I guess in disc golf terms, sure. But I want to get to the point of where these players, like, the name of the hat that they wear, right? I want that to be like a $25,000 sponsorship to have every time you play in a disc golf tournament, you have their name on your hat, $25,000. Like, get to the point of where this stuff actually makes money, and that only happens with the people listening to this podcast, the people watching this podcast, tune into live coverage. That's the only way that actually those spots matter.
Well, live coverage also has to start covering more cards, because if someone, like, why is it worth it on? We'll just use you. Why is it worth it on your hat if you're
No.
only going to be on coverage when you're on chase card and lead card.
Well, that has to do with the spectators too, because if you're at a, if you know there's going to be a constant few thousand people at an event, even if you're not on coverage, there's still some value there. Whereas if you're on fifth card and not a single person is, because like in golf, spectators don't follow groups as much as they will. They
see
do.
everyone come through.
But they also, they'll sit on a hole and let people go through. That's not a thing. So like the spectator model is so different in disc golf, and also the attendance, that like you can't bank any value off of that.
Yeah.
It's only what's seen on Jomez pretty much is what you're going to be able to sell values with.
That's why I think it's so hard to put value on like wearing a hat or a logo on a shirt or something.
This is where I think the social media side matters more for us right now, because I'm a perfect example. I might make lead card, chase card. This year I've probably been on, outside of like feature cards that I've been on coverage maybe 4 or 5 times, I want to say.
Like that.
Yeah.
Like that's hard to sell to a company, because next year it might be 0. I might not make a lead or chase card next year. It's too hard to say. So that's where I think you have to build in the social media side of saying like, no, I'm going to post pictures when I'm at tournaments and I'm going to be having your name. And like, that's where the social media side probably is more heavily weighed for disc golfers than it is for golfers. Because golfers, it's like, you're going to get on coverage. You're going to be seen by media outlets and stuff, where disc golf, you just said it perfectly. If you're not on feature card, you're not on lead card, you're not on chase card, and you're not posting about it, do people really even know that you were at that tournament?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think that's just going to be such an interesting time if disc golf, or should I say when disc golf, because I do believe it will get to that point at some point, of where now you're seeing people paying for logos on their shirts. And I'm not talking NASCAR, even though there are guys right now on tour that do kind of have that NASCAR vibe where they just have tons of logos all over the place. But I think, I think you can sell something on your chest. I think you can sell your hat, and you can make a little bit more money, which would make it nicer for a lot of these people that are on tour, kind of barely making it with just how small the purses are. So, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's so weird, too, because, like, the PGA Tour, like, if you look at what disc golf's doing right now, what the PGA Tour is doing, and you're following both, like, it's wild. Because, like, the PGA Tour now is basically saying, like, hey, you guys that we don't really care about, you don't really make us any money, like, we're going to be focusing more on the top guys that are really making us money. But at the same time, it's good for the bottom guys, because when the bottom guys play well or do well, they're going to end up making more money. But they're putting in place a lot of things of where, like, they're thinking about making it to where you actually have like almost a salary being on tour, right? So that's so interesting, because like that, I mean, has that ever even been discussed at disc golf? Probably not, because there's not enough money in the pool. But that could be a wild thing of where the top 60 guys that get tour cards make $10,000 guaranteed for just showing up and playing in events. But the money thing's always kind of wild, and obviously it's a very new thing these last several years. So
yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap
I
it
could
up.
talk about that
with,
forever.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up with predicting the hot score that just happened today at Jones East. The hot score, just for the reference, when the wind was up.
Yeah, give me a weather.
When the wind was up, round 1, hot round was a 59 from Thomas Gilbert back at the DDO.
What the heck is that?
How
It's
many
5
under
under.
par is that?
5 under?
Sorry, 6 under.
6 under?
6
6
under was
under?
hot back then.
With the wind.
With the wind.
They made, all right, let me think real quick. Hole 1's the same, 2's the same, 3's the same, 4's the same, 5's the same, 6 is the same, 7 is the same, 8's the same, 9 is easier. So that's one. I think 9's going to be one shot easier. 10, I think, is a half shot easier. So we're at 1.5. 11's the same, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, I think it's playing 1.5 shot easier with the same weather conditions.
Okay.
What does the wind look like? You got to tell me what the weather looks like on Tuesday.
it's very low.
It's very low.
It should be a nice
we
day for
looked
disc
at
golf.
it earlier, yeah. Just a breeze.
My prediction's 11 under.
I was going to say 12 or 13.
Okay.
I guess. Pick 12 or 13 then. Pick one.
I'll go 12.
Dang it. All right, 13
I think there's
it is.
3 holes.
Somebody's sizzling.
I'm going 10.
I think
Silas
there's
on 10.
3 holes. There's
10,
3 holes that are
11,
really,
12,
really
13.
hard to birdie. So my guess is best score probably only gets one of those. So now that puts them at, if they birdie everything else, that puts them at 16 under. They don't get 4 of those. They're at 12. I like 12.
All right. So we have
I mean,
Silas
I
at
would-
10.
I hate
I'm at
13.
11.
I got it.
If I'm
Brodie's
talking
at
right
12,
now,
Trevor's at
I would be
13.
happy with literally locking 12 in the clubhouse for me.
Yeah. All right.
Sweet.
Well, there you have it. So if the winner is at
Brody would be happy with 12 under. This is breaking news.
breaking news, Brodie's happy with 12 under par.
If you see me shooting 12 under par today, know that I'm happy.
There you go. All right. Well, hopefully we're in the right range, and hopefully you're in that range. The
There's
World's
a crazy
coverage-
tournament. There's a crazy tournament. Like, if you had to tell me, like, hey, at the end, of 4 rounds, because again, there's 5 rounds, so you can't really just say you're going to make it to the cut. But if you're like, at the end of 4 rounds, where do you think what would your range be? Like, my range, honestly, is like probably like 5 under to like 32 under.
It's a pretty big
After
range.
Big
4
range.
Like, after 4 rounds, like I could see myself being at 4 under par, missing the cut, or I could see myself being 32 under and in the mix. These courses set up for people that if you're playing really well, you're going to score great. And if you're having kind of an off day and you're spraying it all over the place, you're not going to score good at all. So
Across 5 rounds, you think it takes an average of double digits? You
Nah,
think
I
someone's getting
9.
50?
I'm like 9.
if you shoot 50 under, you win Worlds.
Yeah, I think.
What do you think the line is where you're
I
like,
like 9 for the
so
winner.
you're thinking 45?
Yeah, 45 wins.
I think 45 wins as well.
All right. I like that. So 10 under, 10 to 13 under is the hot day one, 45 under wins.
Yeah.
Boom. That's Worlds.
45 wins by a stroke. If you're going to shoot 45, you're only winning by a stroke.
Oh, okay. Wow. Wow.
It's very close.
So that's what someone's going to shoot 50 and win by 6.
Yeah.
There you go. If you're watching, if you want to tune into the final round of Worlds, we're going to be doing a companion stream live. I know Trevor, Silas, and I, probably some guys in the warehouse as well, will have some bets going on who's going to win, what's the hot score going to be, different side bets. Like we might
fun.
just throw something on.
I hope I will not be joining
just-
you guys, by the way.
Yeah. Hopefully we're watching you. Hopefully we're watching you.
Hopefully, hopefully I will not be on the live stream.
We'll hopefully have we'll probably do some bets on like how many people make the island on 16.
We'll just
stuff like that.
we'll just throw stuff in the mix. Like we'll just play for Connor's monitor at one point.
Yeah. We'll just start taking stuff off Connor's desk since he's not going to be here and just start.
His light bulb's over there.
Playing for it.
I'd love to get my hand on one of those light bulbs.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You're going to be able to. Saturday.
All right,
It
Saturday.
all goes down. We'll see you all then. And obviously we'll be back here, same time, same place to recap Worlds next week, minus Trevor.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.